G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined by my partner in crime, Algared, and our guest today is Angry PC Tech. So, at the time you'll be watching this, I'll be on a beach somewhere in the Philippines, having a really great time. But we're recording a few episodes ahead of time because I'm going to be away. And so we're going to try and invite a few content creators for Fix My Fleets while we're away. So if you actually know a content creator that you would, even if you'd just like to see their fleet, reach out to us, or we'll reach out to them and we get in contact and we can get a couple of these recorded. But what we want to do is don't have to change anything. Maybe just give them some of our recommendations or something like that. And it's something we see with some of the content creators we've approached in the past. They get scared that we're going to make them do something. We can't make you do anything, for one. But no, it's just well, he's already gone and changed his fleet on things we've said, so that kind of destroys it a
You
little
could do
bit.
this. I've done it.
Yep. So yeah, and then also don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell if you like these videos and want to see more in the future. We've only got about half the people who watch us subscribe, so we'd like to get those numbers up a little bit so they reflect more of our peers, because we seem to be smaller than we should be, but our views are a lot higher than they should be. So we don't really push it too much, do we?
Our peers look at some of our stats and go, how are you not bigger? Because your view counts up, your impressions are up. But yeah, so if you've been here before and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. You obviously like what we do.
All right, so let's kick it off to the browser straight away. All right, Angry. So this is your fleet as you kind of came to us. I guess I'll just go through it and you can kind of tell me a bit about it. So kind of what were you going for? What was your overall theme, so everyone can kind of come up to speed?
So my org and kind of what we do is industrial logistics mining are our primary focus in commercial. So the Hull E's, as they're pretty much self-described, are pretty much for going in and buying everything out of a sector and moving it somewhere else. So two of those so we can haul the most. One of them is for pretty much supplying the Pioneer with materials it needs for building outposts. The Hull C's are designed for when the Hull E's go into an area to be able to go to the smaller stations, pick stuff up, and move it in large quantities back to the Hull E's. And then pretty much moving from those and the quick and dirty version of it, the two galaxies are to support refinery operations for the Orion, the Moles, the Prospectors, the Expanses, stuff like that. And then the Reclaimer and Vultures, obviously, for salvage operations in any sector whenever we're there. Starfarers to keep everything fueled up and running as needed. And then the rest up there is kind of just my personal mess about fleet.
And there's mining stuff up here too, yeah.
Yeah, the Orion's up there for mining with the Moles and the Vulture, or the Prospectors.
So Furies for giveaways, and this stuff in here is your own personal stuff.
And so the usual question we say, what are your three professions you actually want to be involved in?
So for me, my three professions that I kind of focus around are the commercial, logistics, hauling, moving, trade commodities, and mining are pretty much my three for now, the current game loops that I really enjoy.
What did I write down, Algared? I wrote it down.
Cargo, mining, and luxury.
Yeah, that's what we wrote.
Luxury too, yeah.
That's what we wrote down. So yeah.
They do it to us every time.
Yeah,
what are
they change us. Make us look like liars.
When they come to the show and they go, "Oh, this one and this one," and you go, "What about the third one?"
No more lies than telling people you're not going to make them change anything. I mean, this is nothing what my fleet looks like now.
Yeah. No, that was at about 7 o'clock in the morning, Algared, and then it's now for us about 8 o'clock at night. So it's been like 12 hours later. Right. He's gone away, and already he's changed it. Oh, I've got to close that. He's already changed it to this. So he's already gone out and got a privateer. Don't ask us how he got a privateer when there's no privateers available, but he went and got one. And so this is kind of what you're at now, isn't it? So you've kind of changed it quite a little bit. So you've trimmed off all the Furies. You've cut back some of the Hull C's. I don't know. So what you tell us why you did that after our discussion with you, so people can understand what you've changed and why.
Well, so like we talked about this morning, where you you kind of expand on to start with the largest that you can afford out of the gate, because it's going to give you the ability to, like, I can go out with that Orion and 5-6 people aboard it, and there's nothing below that Orion or that I can't purchase in a few hours work with the Orion and move laterally either into, if I want to go out and do PvP, PvE, you know, bounty missions, whatever the case may be, I can earn whatever I need with that to either fund the fleet for the org, go out and buy more mining ships for smaller mining operations, buy, you know, whatever the org would need to flow out, if that makes sense. You can, the larger ships, like, you know, like we were talking about this morning, allow you to expand those operations quickly and efficiently, as well as give more people the opportunity to mess about in the larger stuff that they wouldn't normally get to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what were the new stuff? I guess is what I'll ask. So why did you bring some of the new stuff in? So yeah, we'll just start there and we'll go from there, I think. So privateer. How did we sell you? How did we sell you on the privateer?
So the privateer, you know, doing the commercial thing, talking about it, we got the BMM that you land and park on a planet and turn it. It's more of a ground-based 3-shop specialty luxury bazaar. It's going to cater to your more high-end goods. The privateer, you can go to a mining sector or system, load it up with mining equipment, everything that, you know, you might need in that particular area to take, hover it above the planet, and, you know, you park your industrial refining machine next to it. Your miners come up, they refuel, they drop off the ore they want to sell. They go in there, buy any mining supplies, modules, gadgets, etc. that they might need while they're refueling, repairing, and, you know, getting paid out from their ore drop with your refineries. So you complete a full loop, and that particular mining group that may be down there working that area doesn't have to necessarily go and fly to a refinery or to a station to buy everything they need. They've got it all right there, right above the planet, and you're good to go. And it also supports org operations. You know, you got moles, prospectors down on a planet. You can take that there, resupply, drop them there while they're dropping off for the refineries, either at, because I'm sure you'll be probably in the Orion, you'll be able to offload saddlebags off moles and prospectors and feed them into the Orion or the Expanses, depending on what you're doing in a particular region. So it just makes sense that the privateer, as much as I'm not a Drake fan, the privateer in its role is pretty much, in my opinion, if you're an org and you're going to be doing any type of org operations, the Kraken pretty much fits into any org, no matter what you're doing, as a support ship.
Can't disagree with that.
Nope.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't really think of it using it like a mining hub, but actually that would work really well. In fact, you could actually do that to any profession. You know, you're essentially parking yourself between the distance they have to travel and the shops they have to sell at. You're removing that danger factor too. Do I travel all the way from this planet to the next to sell at this refinery, knowing that I could get intercepted by pirates, or I could just go to this up to the space station essentially, which is the Kraken, and sell there. And yeah, I do lose a bit of money, but I'm safe. I don't have to do that dangerous travel.
Same thing with the Reclaimer and Vulture operations. You take that to a hot sector for combat where, you know, reclamation and salvage operations are going on. Cool. You don't have to haul it all the way back planet side to go sell it there. Bring it here. We'll give you, you know, 80% of its market value, 75% of its market value. You can drop it here. We deal with the headache. Our org has to deal with all that operations. You're loading it onto the Kraken. The whole seas are loading it onto the whole seas, are pulling all of it off the Kraken and onto the seas, taking it to the E's until they're full up, and then you take that planet side wherever you need it to sell it.
Yep, that's it. Yeah. The Endeavor, I think that's the only other new one I can notice, unless that's the only one I can see.
Well, the Endeavor was one that I said would be in there, but its roles are not really 100% fleshed out in the game because the ship's obviously not in the game yet. But like planet side or operation side in space, it's kind of such a multifaceted ship. It kind of just sits there and does its thing until then.
Like, that's the thing that gets me. It hasn't grown yet. Like, I was looking the other day, and the hanger module for the Endeavour is basically 2 size 2 pads because it can take 2 cutlasses. That's the size of the large pads
up here on the Kraken, yeah.
On the Kraken.
Yeah. So you kind of do the math.
That gives you an indication of how much that Endeavour has to grow.
Yeah. It kind of literally means like you could almost put the Endeavour cab here and the engines back on the either side of the Kraken. You're starting to get a rough idea how big that thing could potentially be. It's kind of scary.
And it's gonna have to have like a little shops or something, another module that's gonna be added to it as the game progresses. So even then, on its own, it could be a reprieve from other operations.
Well, maybe not shops, because I think they want you to kind of offload that to something else. So you might go to the Kraken and sell your stuff. And that was one of the things I did say to you earlier this morning. You could probably have an Endeavour and a Kraken privateer next to each other as like a little hot zone bazaar thing. So yeah. All right. So after we didn't get to see this one, so we only saw the one in the morning, right? So Algared, do you want to explain?
We all split. Then we all went, okay. We talked felt like ages, not talking about where he's going, what he's doing, and then we said, okay, homework. We'll meet back in 12 hours' time. We'll come up with a fleet and did some homework. So yeah.
All right. So this is what Algared came back with. And you tell us what you did, Algared.
All right. So because you're an org leader, I went for the two Orions, 2 Hull Cs because that was logistics and you're into cargo. I kept one of the Hull Cs.
You mean Hull E, but I get what you mean.
Yep. I did mean the 2 Hull E's, and then I kept one of the Hull Cs. Again, for that org aspect, I don't expect you to need, even though you were looking at the Hull Cs, to be able to go abroad and bring all the stuff back to the Hull E's. I don't see in an org, most of your org members who come, they're not going to have the big ships, but they will have a Hull C or a Hull B or a Hull A. And so they'll be, so it gives them a chance to use their ships to do that thing. So it's you're supplementing them, you're not providing everything that the org needs. So I trimmed off those. I kept your Orion because you're into mining. I added the privateer because pretty much the same reasons you were saying. I kept your BMM because that gives you that planetary ability to do the same type of thing on a smaller scale. I kept a reclaimer because I think if you're going logistics, I actually think you want a reclaimer because that's the salvage aspect. I think if you're doing logistics, having an Orion is also a good thing. Same with the cargo delivery.
So now you still got more to go? Okay, keep going.
Yep.
I thought you finished.
I also added the Crucible. I think the Crucible, if you're looking at salvage, the Crucible pairs really well, I think, with a Redeemer, a Reclaimer, and a BMM. You salvage components and weapons and bits and pieces, and even the materials from when you're salvaging. The resources and the crates go to the Crucible for repair, which means you're actually able to support your org as well by doing the repair and logistics of doing that aspect. But you can also repair the components and weapons and either use them in your org or put them in your BMM or your privateer and sell them. So there's a nice little economic loop, but I think they work. I kept your Phoenix because you liked the Phoenix. I ditched most of the exploration vehicles you had. As I looked at your fleet, you didn't have exploration listed, but you had a Carrack, a Corsair, a 600i Explorer. And so I said, okay, you want to do exploring, we'll keep the best of the explorers. And then I looked at the other ships and said, okay, you're into cargo and stuff. A ship that does cargo is the MSR. It's a small ship. It's in that same size category as a Connie and a Corsair. It can still do the vehicle lifting, but it also gives you the ability to transport and do trade in data. So you've got the cargo plus the data. So that's why that's there. I kept a Sentinel because, again, you like that. I added the Nautilus because even though you're a cargo logistics site, and same with Polaris. I added those because even though the cargo logistics site and your org does have a military branch, it doesn't hurt you to your set to actually have something, so you can guarantee we've always got something able to do it. So you're not doing the lion's share of the heavy lifting, but you've got something there to back you up. The Nautilus, I think, is a really good asset to when you're setting your Kraken up as a space station or your Aurora.
Yeah.
You can plant those mines or those self-defense turrets around, just adding an extra layer of defense to help. Polaris is there. I actually think a Perseus would be a better fit for that short range support of those big ships. But $75 more, you get a Polaris, which is a better support escort ship for Harley, as well as being around for the other stuff.
And earn down.
I think that's more or less it. Right. I'm still not happy with that because there were things that were missing in that fleet. As I looked at what you need for logistics, I think you want a gas miner or refuel ship. So you want a Gemini or whatever next size up. You want the Endeavour because I think that ties in with the same things as we're saying, same reasons you gave. You want your Orion, you want your Hull-E, you want your Crucibles.
I think you're kind of hitting on something there, Algared. I think what's going to end up happening here is after he's kind of looked at all three fleets, I think he's going to make little changes from each. And so what I was going to say to Angry PC Tech, now you've looked at Algared's one, is there any that you would look at and go, maybe I should add those to my own? Has that happened yet?
Well, I did. Yeah, that's why, as I was...
Well, we might save that. We might save that for the end then. So we'll let you look at mine as well. And then after you've looked at both, you can comment on things that you think that you might add to your own. So we'll
I have a shitload of store credit left over.
Yeah.
And I know you were saying you don't like the 890, but the reason that's there is...
You're an org leader.
And you said luxury was one of your things.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's
and that is the pinnacle of luxury in the game at the moment.
If they say so.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember they're going to come back and gold pass all these. So you've got to buy for the release, not for the now. And you can buy for the now, but you've got to have an exit strategy or the foresight to know where it's going to go. And you can have a ship that's absolutely garbage right now, but know that when the game comes out, you have to trust. Like this whole backing started on faith. The whole thing, everything grew from faith. So I still have that faith, and newer people, obviously, as they came in, didn't have as much faith. They needed to see more evidence before they've joined. But as thing goes along, more and more people have joined.
Yep. The other thing is on the budget you had, I roughly calculated. I even though I've taken your Furies out, the money that was spent in the Furies I didn't count in. So they're kind of still there because they were giveaways.
Yeah.
And after that, you still had about $310 in credit left over with that fleet. So.
And I went the other way because I looked at this and went, he has more money than bloody sense. No, I do often work out that's not entirely true. I often sit there and one of the first questions I ask is how much you've spent. But this time around, I know Angry PC Tech enough. He'll just throw money at it to fix the problem. I know what he's like. So this is mine.
Yeah,
right?
He just went out and bought a Kraken.
Yeah. Before the Kraken,
I didn't buy it. We did horse trading.
Okay, horse trading.
All right. So these two explosions up here, ironically, is what Algared was talking about. So this is the gas miner and the capital refinery ship. They've exploded. You can't tell what they are. So you've lost them, but that's what they're meant to represent. So they're two ships that we don't know that are coming. Or we know that are coming, but we don't know they're out yet. I basically trimmed a lot of the fat, and now even seeing Algared's, I think I would probably add the Nautilus in that Algared had. That synergizes so well defensively with the idea of the privateer and the Endeavour kind of hanging up above the space station. And even like what he said with the Perseus, that would be really good as well. So you could take the Polaris and earn the Nautilus and earn the Perseus, or you could pick them both up with extra credit if you've got it, right? So everything Algared said is valid, but also Algared said, other people in the org might have those. So again, being the org leader, I think you need to be a little bit more dynamic in what you do and kind of fill gaps. Unfortunately, that's just what we do as org leaders. It's like notice the gaps and get that stuff. Everything Algared said was bang on. Right, you've got all these massive capital ships. Not just like only does the Crucible work with the Reclaimer, but you need to repair them. right? You've got all these really big ones, and sometimes they're going to have to travel multiple systems to get repaired. Where if you just have the Crucible, you can do it yourself, right? So and I've said this before, and now got to agree with me. If you have a capital ship, a Crucible is almost a must, because if you get stuffed, you are a behest to other people, and if you're not in an org or don't have access to one, you're in big trouble. So almost when you claim say you claimed your Kraken privateer to a new area of space, you would almost guarantee you would claim your Crucible to the same place, because they have to look after each other essentially, and you can park the Crucible somewhere and pull it out when the Kraken's in trouble. So obviously I added the privateer. The only the Endeavor, as you guys both did, the 890 jump just like Algared, because you're the org leader. You want the pinnacle of luxury. If luxury is your thing, don't go hard or go home. Especially if you're the org leader, and earn down into the 600i, earn down into 400i, the Phoenix, whatever you want to do, right? But by the same token, I think the other thing I wrote down here that I kind of noticed with both your own, where you'd kind of cut your more personal stuff, and Algared had left a lot of your personal stuff. I'm kind of in that vein as well, Algared. I kind of do agree with you. You maybe do want to keep some personal stuff for just yourself. You are an org leader, but you are still a human being, and you're still a gamer, and you're still, yes, you can earn them, but it's kind of nice to have one just to yourself. So I could also add back in the Phoenix or one, or an MSR or a daily driver or something like that. So they're the changes that I would make, having seen Algared's and yours as well. So I guess we kind of go back to you now, and we'll go back to yours. Having looked at mine and Algared's, what would you change? If you were ready to talk about it, that is.
So a couple of things I would do looking at everything. So when you go to luxury, technically, if you want to go on the new lore, the pinnacle of luxury is a BMM. Because it's the newest, it's one of those luxury liners that adapt.
So the only problem with that is the more recent a ship, the more kind of they've learned, right?
Yeah.
They're going to go back and they're going to update that 890 jump, just like they're updating the 600i. They have learned, like, they are human beings.
But it'll still stay true to the 890's core function, which is luxury transport. Yes. And while luxury transport is is one of the things I like, I'm also a businessman. So why not do my luxury personal transport on the same ship I do my work on?
That's entirely up to you. I'm just going based on what you told us, right? If you've got a luxury ship, they are going to go back and they're going to turn that 890 jump into what it should be. They're going to do that with every ship in the game. You can look at everything from the very first large ship that came out, the Retaliator, all the way till the last big one that came out. And God, I have to use a magic here to. But you know what I mean? Like, they're even today, as we were kind of recording this, John Crew was on the live stream for Invictus talking about the ship Q&A, and he literally said the Reclaimer needs a rework. So it's showing that they're all going to get changed, right? So you have to go by what they've told us, not what it currently is. And that's the danger of a lot of this stuff, because you see people, like a ship will come out and people go, I don't like the Redeemer, it's too slow, and they melt it, because that's how it is right now. That the Scorpius came out, they've nerfed it. It's not what it was. The Ares Ion, it's not what I was promised. They melted, right? That's a kind of a mistake, because you have to look at what it's going to. If you melt it because you don't like it and you don't like what it's going to be at the release, that's different. But doing it because of how it is now versus how it's going to be, you're going to find that a lot of people are going to have remorse. So you've got to be careful about that.
And it's not that I don't see the 890 as a functional luxury transport. It's not something that it may still end up in my fleet if somebody else wants to do luxury transport. There you go have fun. But for me, it's not fun for me to fly. And looking at what it's going to be and its overall size and its heft, it's not the kind of ship
then cut it.
I would be.
If you don't like it, you cut it. But we're going based on, you're an org, you told us you like luxury. That's where we went. And I don't disagree with you about the banner merch being luxury either, 100%. But it's more towards that trading vein, bizarre luxury, not the party bus luxury. The party.
I take the view the BMM is like Trumpian luxury. It's ostentatious in
Yeah,
your face.
I can see that.
It's not really.
It's opulent.
It's opulence. It's it's crassness. It's a crass opulence rather than tasteful, and I think that's the difference between the 890s.
Well,
I
think the Banus.
I think I can wrap it up here and say, like, keep your eye on the 890 jump, right? And if you've got one in buyback, right? Because we know you've got access to shit because you got a privateer in 12 hours. I wish I had that freaking access. That means you can get 890 jump and drop the hat, I'm assuming. So, you know, if you can get one or you've got one in buyback, at least just you've got the option under your belt is what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah,
so, and in time, like everything, I can tell you right now, your opinion has changed on ships. Just today, your opinion changed on the privateer. We did that, right? We helped you do that and see that. So the 890 jump might change in time. All I'm saying is keep your options open. And if you don't like it, do what you want, right? But at the end of the day, I can see as an org leader, if you're into luxury and you're an org leader, 890 jump is the way to go, in my opinion. And when Algared and I are on the same page, it's generally really high up there in accuracy.
And I agree with you. It's one of those things where I don't see it as it's not a luxury liner that doesn't serve a purpose and wouldn't have it. I'm not saying it wouldn't have a purpose in my org. It may be something where we're going to have a party and we want to do it on there. But I'm sure there's going to be someone else in the org that's going to have one that we can use there.
Yeah. And I think I'm just noticing one other difference between my fleet and both yours and Algared's is I removed the 2 hull seats. I got rid of them because that, as I said, they're so easy to earn with the other big ships you've got. Put that money elsewhere and get something else that you can't normally get. You know, again, something like that 890 jump is going to be behind the biggest rep wall you've ever seen. Right, and a hull C being the most common ship in the entire game. Yes, it might be behind a bit of a cargo rep wall, but nothing compared to what that 890 will be behind. That thing will be one of the hardest ships in the game to obtain.
Well, and the whole E's are going to help you rip through any cargo rep wall you would have in no time flat.
Exactly. You're getting it. Yeah.
I had one of a whole C's in mainly just to help you do your orgy stuff. But I was ditching it. The one ship that I'd have added to the fleet, I didn't have the Endeavour in my fleet, in my main fleet. It was one of the ships that I wanted to have in as a
I think that's what I was saying, Aaron. It looks like it's going to be an amalgamation of everyone's fleet. So because it's the same thing. Like I look at what you did with the Nautilus, and I'm like, oh, that's such a good idea. And what you said about the Perseus rings true, and what you said about the Polaris rings true. So the other thing I can see is you've got multiple options here, but I also think knowing the org that you have, you need to go back to the org and kind of go, are we missing any of these? Do we only have one Nautilus, but we've got 600 people? Like that's clearly a hole, you know? So
I think we have, I think we only have one Nautilus, and that's what I was about to ask is what was the MSRP or what's the price on the Nautilus right now?
725, but it's not out yet. So estimates at that price range would put it at 825 final.
So two of the hull C's that I got rid of will replace one Nautilus. We have one Nautilus in the org roster already. So having one paired with the Kraken and the Endeavor, and having one paired with the 2 hull E's covers both of those fronts.
Now this is speculation on my part, but just run this through, right? I am actually expecting a bigger mine layer. And I think Algared would agree this with me, is because those mines are equivalent to size 5 torpedoes. Now, those torpedoes are the ones that the Gladiator takes. That is the smallest torpedo bomber in the game, right? So if you actually look at it based on torpedo size, we could have, say, something that does the Retaliator ones. We could also have ones that does a Prospector one, and even up to a Javelin at a size 10, right? So there is room there for another 2 to potentially 3 mine layers. It really depends where they want to go with it, and obviously the smallest ones probably could potentially be the crappiest one, but also the smallest one that's really designed to kill the frontline fighters are the first things that turn up. So the advantage of a Nautilus is when there's nobody at their turrets, the mines and the sentries are there ready to go, right? So then as they've gone off, everyone's hearing it and they're scrambling to the turrets of the ships.
The general quarters.
Yeah, and then the ships start moving. So they're the first line of defense. So the other way I've looked at it is there could not be any other mine layer, right? So it really depends where CIG want to take it.
Well, and go ahead.
In terms of the mine right, and the reason I think that there'll be a bigger one is the simple fact that we've got larger sentry mined, basically, outside of stations. And they're larger than the ones on the current Nautilus.
Yep.
So you got to think about this as these may be potentially fire and forget mines.
Yep.
So you got to look at your overall. And
they are not fire and forget because you have to maintain them. They do have like batteries and components, and they will wear out. And
what I mean by fire and forget is you're going to drop them, but there's probably not a way to really reclaim them, or you may have to get out of Dodge.
That's a part of the Nautilus's feature. You can actually reclaim mines.
It's a mine layer, mine sweeper.
Yeah, and mine maintainer.
Right. I'm saying you may have to get out of Dodge in a hurry. So you don't
Sorry, let me just finish. Any ship can grab a single mine and repair it and stuff like that, but they can't deploy it and reclaim it as quickly as the Nautilus can. It is highly adapted to what it does. So it's got drones that can go over and disable mines and reclaim them. So not only can you remove someone else's minefield, but you can maintain and replace your own. So it's another niche ship. It's designed for that.
And it's got the storage in it is designed to safely transport both mines.
But it doesn't hold very many as well. From what I understand, it was only like 4 or 5 of each type.
No, I think it's man, you've really caught me out here, but I know it's
Google that.
It's like 20 or something. It's actually quite a substantial number. So we'll get you that number, but it has been a hot minute since we've looked at the Nautilus a couple of years.
Well, the reason I was saying, you would want your larger mines protecting your outpost, your permanent outpost. So your larger mine layer would most likely hang out near the Pioneer or where your permanent duty station is going to be.
Yeah.
Whereas your more portable mine layers would follow your fleet to wherever they're working.
Yeah. So what we're trying to get at, if you want to nail it down, is in the future, like I was saying with the 890 jump, look at the possibilities. You may turn that Nautilus into something bigger, is what I'm trying to say. That's all I was trying to say. Yeah. So but
no, I was going down the thought experiment of the larger versus where if it does come in, where would it come in at, and where would it fall into the gameplay loop?
So if you kind of go back and look at what Algared and I said and kind of blend it together, the ships that you could add into the fleet here would be the Nautilus, a Perseus, and a Polaris. And your
a couple of toolboxes
and a Crucible. So they're the 4 that you could 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5 that you could add if you wanted to. So you've got options as well. But again, I think the discussion really now is, because you're an org leader, is to really go back to your org and kind of suss out what's there and what's not. And of those 5, if you wanted to add more, they're the 5 you look at. But also you got to look at ones that may come in the future. So a lot of the combat stuff is already there, and there may be other combats in the future. But for me, the Nautilus is one, the 890 is one. You've got flexible options there, and I think as an org leader, you understand the filling the gap mentality. Is kind of what I'd call it. And unfortunately, that's the role as leaders that often falls to us. We have to get some stuff that is just essential, that other people don't want to get. But you also may go, I know you have different facets in your org, so you're like doing the logistics of commerce and stuff like that, and someone else is doing combat. You may go back and talk to them, and they're now you've talked to us. It might even be a really cool follow-up episode, actually, if we have an episode with you and a couple of your org people and go, now we've looked at this, where do you guys notice there is a gap? Because that'd be a really cool follow-up if you're up for it.
I'll talk to them and see if they're open to it.
Yeah, and and we don't have to shop their fleets. Just look at yours and go, knowing your own fleet, guys, what would you put in here that are missing from yours that you could probably, as an org leader, they could help you say, well, I've just realized we don't have this, this, and this. It'd be a really cool perspective experiment. We've never done that, so it might be a cool follow-up, and we could obviously play that after this one.
And just to tap your gourd a little bit, now that I've got the Kraken, I think I'm going to have to pick up a couple dozen of the Furies just to put in the hold for Scramble Craft.
Well, if they end up, they did say that they could have different bikes in that little component bay, but you got to remember that component bay is not there on the privateer. It's where the secret shops go. So you actually lose that bike component area.
Yeah.
How many do you think you can fit on those 4 pads sticking off to the side?
Oh, a whole bunch on there. Yeah.
Oh, you could put the bikes on there, but the snub ship bay is where those 2 closed pads are.
Yeah.
I just looked up the Nautilus.
Mm-hmm.
The number of mines on the Nautilus is 24.
There you go. That's
24. Okay.
Yeah. So you think of a Cutlass, like that can probably fit 4 in the back. And how long does it take them to retrieve because they don't have drones, or say it's a Vulcan trying to do it, things like that. They're not really built to do that. And so that is really highly tailored. But again, this is the part I stress is I firmly believe, like what Algared just said, there are larger mines. It can diffuse the larger mines, but then does another ship have to go in to pick them up because it can only pick up smaller mines? That's the thing we're waiting to find out, right? And the biggest weakness of the Nautilus, we always look at ships, how they can destroy themselves from a combat factor. It can kill itself with the guns, but its mines do next to nothing to it. And that's kind of weird. So this is another hammerhead situation where it's punching down. You tend to want to get ships that punch sideways or up, like the Polaris. The Polaris really punches up. The Redeemer punches up. I know you hate the Redeemer, and that was another one that I did toy with putting in, but you really sweared black and blue that you hated it.
I would hunt you down in the verse and shoot you with it.
But it is then you'll learn to love it, wouldn't you?
I did consider the Redeemer as well, because it is a good support ship.
Again, it comes into
about, but if you don't like it and you're adamant you hate it, then what's the point of having? What's the point of?
Well, it comes into the same scenario for me as the A90 Jump. It's just not a ship I enjoy flying.
That's why me and Algared were laughing before the show, because he's going, if you've given me an A90 Jump, we're gonna have worse. And me and Algared are both going, because we both been given one.
Well, I do see its purpose and its function. I guess we lost Algared.
No, he's back. There he goes. His camera. It's that time of night here, so his bandwidth drops a bit, but it's all good. He comes and goes.
But yeah, they're literally, you guys, again, even coming back the second time around to sit down and talk with you guys, there's more things I'm discovering of potential weaknesses that I don't think any of us, even in our org, as much as we've theory crafted this, have thought about. You take those 2 hull E's into a system, their signature is going to be the size of a small moon.
Yeah.
Well,
so you're going to stick out even if you try and hide it in an asteroid belt.
So essentially what you're describing here is what me and Algared see a lot is we stir the pot a little bit and make people think outside the box. That's kind of what we do, why we do Fix My Fleet. You get the generalized stuff that we talk about. And then when you start to customize it, you might have gone through all the general information Algared and I give out, but we see that a lot, don't we, Algared? When we customize it opens it a lot.
The Pioneer has been said it will glow like a Christmas tree.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt. I mean, that thing's going to be
They've said it will. You will see it. You'll know they're building. There's a Pioneer there. That's how big the signature will be. So you need to be able to protect it. You're going to need to have a Nautilus up there putting mines out or whatever.
You'll probably have a privateer above it as well, or a Kraken above it even, because you might even have a privateer and a Kraken. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
have the privateer above, big E's come in, drop the stuff off at the privateer, and then A's and B's actually taking the stuff down because it works out cheaper. And then, and then a Kraken, and that's got all the actual defense stuff on it, to guard the entire area.
And then your Kraken and privateer or Kraken is your starbase literally above the planet. It's your, basically working like Everest or
this could be a really interesting episode to see how you take the org, you as an org leader's fleet, and roll it in with the rest of the org. That would be we've never done that before, but that could be it's a very big can of worms. I don't know where it could go, and it might be a bit complicated having multiple people on the well, even us talking over top of each other with lag and stuff. But if we get in a room with 6-7 people, it's going to be, I might have to do a stick mentality. Go, right, your turn to talk, your turn. But it could be interesting for the audience to see where that goes. So I think we'll kind of start to wrap it up here. But I'm glad to see that you've had some takeaways. Is there anything that, I don't know, maybe give some quick highlights? What were the big surprises for you that you've learned? Just
one. It was as an org leader, and even just as a regular player of the game in general, is as much as I say I have a general disdain for the 890 and Drake products and other things, it's opening up to not necessarily what you see the ship as, but its capabilities, because you've been so short-sighted not to open up to even explore down that thought experiment route.
Yep.
That in leadership, whether it's in an org or even in real life, you need to have that open-minded mentality to look at something from all points of view. Otherwise, you're selling whatever you're working on potentially short.
And Algared's a lot better at that with other people than I am. I get incredibly frustrated when people can't look at a ship for what it is, but they look at, say, the color of it or what manufacturer it is. And Algared can see that, because that's the difference between me and Algared. I'm very what it does rather than how it looks, and Algared's a bit of both. So he's a lot more.
I can see both sides, and I can go, yeah, look, I understand where you're coming from, and I get when you say I hate the ship and I can't stand the ship. I'm not a Drake fan myself, but
well, some Drakes are held together.
I've got to say, yeah, I like, and I used to be a Crusader man, but I can't stand Crusader ships. I don't like them.
By the same token, I don't hate Origin either. I just want them to do more for I want their price to be justified.
We'll see. It's Origin to me signifies the Apple product line that we have in real life, which is pretty much everything that goes against my core beliefs, because it's, pardon my French, it's frick the customer and whatever they want. We're going to build what we like, and they'll like it anyway. If they don't, they can use it or hate it.
Well, that'll come back to bite them eventually, as it always does. Arrogance is a weakness. But we'll see. Yeah, but as I was going down that line, is the Nautilus was something that was a pleasant surprise, and I had meant to actually put a repair ship in based on our discussions earlier. It completely slipped my mind. I have some in my buybacks. I just got to pull them back in. So do you think? Go ahead, Edward.
So the fact that the Endeavour and the Crucible are still at their original concept price, they're still at $350. And they're going to grow, and they're going to grow in price. That's insane.
Yeah,
and that's why. That's people bag us out. We have a cult of the Endeavour and the Church of the Crucible, because we're just constantly seeming to push those ships. And every Fix My Fleet, the people seem to go away. Oh yes, I've got a Crucible Endeavour, and it's like, you guys did it again.
Well, nobody needs their mechanic until the car breaks down.
Yeah,
that's it.
But we look at those ships, and they're still at their original pricing, and you look at the ships that started around them, and they're now $400, $500, $600.
Yeah, it's basically the newer ship is, the more it costs. Look at the Fury this week at Invictus as we record this. That and even looking at the data now, like how like the timers on the ships on the because we don't have the in-game pricing yet, but you can see the timers. You can tell that it's really a $30, $40 ship. It's not a $50 ship. Just based on the time, because the claim time is like the Ursa is 3 minutes, and that's a $50 ship, and or vehicle, and the Fury is 2 minutes. So that's like, what's that, $35?
Well, they're retooling them again. I just read that the new patch that I think it was announced at like 7:00 today, retooled the timers again. So I haven't had a chance to look at that and see what they retimed it at.
That's probably, I was asleep during that time, so it's probably changed again. But you get my point, right?
Yeah, I see your point.
Where design's going. So yeah. The last question I have before we kind of wrap up today is: do you think some of the stuff you've learned here today is going to go back to your org, and do you think it?
100%. 1,000,000% yes, because and I'm going to urge, like, when this goes live, I'm going to tell every one of the org guys, hey, go watch this so you can see you guys knew what my fleet looked like before and my reasoning behind it. Watch this so we can all sit down and kind of round table this and come back at this with a whole new way. Because right now, I think we have 700, it was right around 700 seats we need to fill with our current, just our officers fleets, just the officer fleets alone, not counting lower enlisted or anything like that. So before we even go into that, we need to make sure that the officers fleet is stuff they would enjoy to fly themselves, but B, also fits into their division's operational standards on what they're going to need to do to head up their divisions, so that when we all deploy in an org operation and each division is doing their jobs, that we all support each other in a meaningful way, and we're all not just sitting there with our thumb up our butt going, duh, I thought you had it. Everything's covered.
Yeah. Well, so the other option there too is we wait till this airs and then come back and do that one after, or we'll have a talk after the show. But is there anything you would like to hear from people in the comments below? I guess, Angry, in regards to your fleet, would you like people just to give any recommendations they have, or is there any ships specifically you would like to hear about? Just your thoughts below, so you can come back and see what other people think.
I would love to get other input on how other people might mobilize a similar fleet using alternative methods. Think outside the box, step outside your comfort zone, and look at things from a different perspective. And give me your thought. Give us feedback on what you would think would work better in particular situations. Maybe, different fighters, different luxury, taking different approaches to different roles other than what the ship was originally tooled for specifically. Seeing where it might fit in and how it might fly, and just feedback in general. I'm always open to input. As you see, I'm, when data is given to me, I am not opposed to changing my viewpoint based upon that input.
And it's hard with you.
So he's going to get an 890 jump now, basically, is what he's saying.
Don't push your luck.
Yeah.
Old man Hurston, don't push your luck.
Yeah. No, Angry. You just not very nice there.
Yeah,
you obviously need to go have some Evercrack.
Yeah, there better be an 890 jump in your future called Uwu. We'll see.
Yeah,
or just Evercrack, that would work as well. Actually, now I think about it. And it's blue, like this light blue.
I don't care if a ship if any of the ships I flew were hot pink, as long as they did the job and they did it efficiently to a point.
A stealth ship that's hot, stick out like a sore thumb.
Well, no, I mean, if you think about it being hot pink flying across the sky, no one's going to shoot it there and go, what in the hell? I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole because I don't know what level of crazy is going to come out of there.
All right. So, Algared, is there anything you'd like to hear in the comments below?
As we usually do, as I usually say when we're doing a fix my fleet, tell us what you think. Are we leading Angry down a dark alley and beating up with a sledgehammer, or are we giving him a good order?
It is a tough one, isn't it? Because you're striking that balance of an org leader with what he's tailoring that's very economics and logistics. So he does need to go a little bit outside his purview more than normal because of the org leader stuff. So that's why I think it's a bit broader than most. I kind of looked at what he wanted to do and kept that in focus, but because you're an org leader, it goes a lot wider than normal. So it was a very different one to what we normally do.
Well, and that's something as a background, just, in general life as well. You can't be a leader if you don't know the roles that fall underneath your command. So, I mean, I'm doing myself and my crew a disservice by not learning the different aspects.
All I heard, Algared, was, I'm doing my part. That's all I heard. Service guarantees citizenship.
Guarantees citizenship.
That's all I heard.
You want to know more?
Yeah. All right. With that, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. We're about 50% of you subscribe, the other 50% are not. Would like to see get those numbers up if we can, so that'd be really good. Angry PC Tech, where can people find you on the buttons?
angrypctech.com, twitch.tv/angrypctech, Twitter, Angry PC Tech.
Just real quick, what's your spiel? What's your thing that you kind of do in Star Citizen that would people would like to see that you do?
I fix problems. I fix, like, if
rectal dysfunction,
not those problems. Like, I fix tech problems. You come by. I'm your computer mechanic. I help solve problems that other people have given up on.
Yeah.
So if you have ED, please do not come to my channel with your erectile dysfunction and no photos either. I do not want that in my Twitter at all. I can see this going sideways, and I will forward every one of those to you, Algared.
Yeah, all your org mates. So
whoever said it, I'll have to go watch it.
Yeah, all your org mates are now sending their ED pics. Yeah.
That's right. I'm just blaming it.
I mean, his name starts with the first letter in it.
All right. With that, he's been Algared. He's been Angry PC Tech.
He's been Execute.
And we'll catch you in the next one.
And we're out of here.
Bye.
So much stronger.
Yes, you are.
I like Porky Pig myself there.